Joe Coffey here with PremierGuitar.com. We're checking out new stuff from Kustom. They've got a new line of bass amps. Mark, tell me about these.
Yeah, absolutely. This is called Deep End, and it's a full-blown new product line for us. The basic premise of the Deep End amps was to make a hybrid bass amplifier that uses a tube preamp, in this case a 12AX7, and then offered in some different speaker formats, including a head, 5 different combos, and 4 different cabinets. But for sure, one of the more unique aspects of it is this tube, and it's running on a high voltage circuit, so you know, it's not just there to look pretty, even though it does look kind of neat. But what we've done is we've given it this tube gain control, and the point of it is where you can really drive that tube, if you like, so you can dial in some of this cool, gritty, growly, you know, vintage amp sounds. And in fact, if you really want to push it, it just goes into a very smooth overdrive that it just is really good, especially for aggressive music when you crank that thing up. Tone controls are traditional bass, middle, and treble, but then the guy who designed this came up with a really cool kind of a problem-solving tone system here that we call Room EQ. And you know, rather than come up with a multi-band EQ that sometimes can be a little difficult to work with, we basically set up this system to help when a bass player goes into different rooms, and you know, sometimes you might go into a room where it's very boomy and you really need to tighten up the sound. What these guys have done, they've kind of located those problematic frequencies, and they help you dial those out. And if you're in a really big room and you need to even tighten it up further, you can really roll off that low end. Same on the treble end, you know, you might go into a room that's kind of small and there's a lot of hard reflections and everything's really in your face. What you can do is you can dial out those kind of problematic frequencies, or you can even be more drastic and really roll off that high end. So it looks simple, but there's actually a lot going on in that circuit. I should mention that the guy who designed these amps at Kustom, his name is George McHale, and he's been in the industry for a lot of years and developed a lot of heavyweight amps.
It's with Ampeg, right?
Yeah, that's right. One thing that he put in here that you can't see is a circuit that we're calling organic clipping, and you know, this has that tube preamp, but it has a solid state output section, and sometimes when you turn up a solid state amp, you know, all the way, it can sound a little rough around the edges. And so George came up with a circuit that if you want to crank this thing all the way, it's all good because it just has a very tube-like response and has kind of rounds out those edges, basically so that it sounds good at any level, even all the way up.
Talk about what's offered in the line. I see a killer 8x10 cab over here. Yeah. A lot of versatility.
Yeah, it's definitely a full-blown line. We've got 100-watt combos, we've got 200-watt combos like we were looking at here. We've got 4 different cabinets, and yeah, this 810, it's kind of intended to be used with any of the cabinets, but in particular, it works great with this DE300 head, and that has a lot of the same features that we just talked about, this time with more power, and there's also some nice things on the back like speaker emulated direct outs, effects loops, and you know, all the goods that it takes, you know, to use this thing in a professional environment. But yep, that's the Deep End.
Pricing and availability?
Yeah, availability, everything will start shipping later this spring. Pricing, pretty reasonable. So for example, the street price on this head will be around $380. This 810 cabinet on the street will be around $700. So essentially you can have a pro rig with an 810 cab and spend only a little over $1,000.
Wow, very cool. Mark, thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Joe Coffey for PremierGuitar.com.